okay, let's try this out. Turns out that YouTube won't let us go live. Not until we get at least 1,000 subscribers. So, y'all need to start subscribing to our channel so that we can do these things live. This is Chris. I gave you an introduction and wasn't able to have him with me because I was actually at work when I did the introduction video.
Yeah, slacking.
Yeah, well, it was the end of my day. I had served over 100 people. That's good enough. Okay, so we're going to start out. This is I got the wrong one. I started to say Maybon. This is Samhain. Maybon was last month. This is going to be our Samhain. We're going to try to do these before the actual date so that you guys can prepare. And we'll start out with, I'm going to go ahead and do my reading. Hopefully at some point we can actually get this so that I can show the pages. Because I'm not sure you can actually, you can't really see the pictures. This is a series of books called Rupert's Tales, and it's specifically designed for pagan children, Wiccan children. It's written by a lady named Kaija, I believe it is how it's pronounced. And I know that I usually, when they come to me from Texas, so she must be from out that way. So I'm going to read this one's called Rupert's Samhain Celebration. Samhain. You need to understand, this is my 6th day of working. The fact that I'm even able to speak is amazing at this point. Rupert the rabbit found himself very surprised, and he knew his friend Melvin wouldn't think him quite wise. He was sitting in the lap of a little girl who was crying, although her sniffles had stopped and her tears were finally drying. He had been to this sacred round place many times before, and had watched the unfolding of its mysterious lure. On the edge of the forest stood this thick grove of trees, elms, oaks, birch, and cypress, with many long knobby knees. And right in the middle of this shady green place was a meadow, or clearing, a kind of round place. But now that the weather was cooler and summer had fled, instead of green, the leaves were all yellow, orange, brown, and red. It was here that he had come, and even early this time. He didn't want to miss anything or be left behind. He had watched as the people had come by twos and by threes, preparing their feast and their circle underneath the trees. He had been sitting quite quietly, very still, hiding behind a tree near the bottom of the hill. He hadn't seen the little girl come from behind. He hadn't heard her make a noise of any kind. She was suddenly right beside him, just right there, as if she had appeared from out of thin air. She had reached and drawn him into her small arms. Somehow he knew she didn't mean him any harm. She had hair that was dark yellow, like some wheat he had once seen, and she was wearing a ribbon on her wrist that was green. She had pressed her small nose into the fur of his ears, and then it had begun, the quiet sniffles and tears. Rupert remembered others who had taught him interesting things, a pretty white owl, a playful fairy with colorful wings. At Lemos he had met a kind crone who was beautiful in her own way, and a mouse who was his friend even had something important to say. And so Rupert had let the little girl hold him and get on with her tears, wondering if she would teach him something about the turning of the year. "How I miss my grandma," he heard her hiccup a bit, then whispered sadly, "If only she was still here, I would listen to all her stories gladly. She was funny and smart, gave wonderful hugs, and was very kind, you know. And I hope my mom is right, and it really is as above, so below." because if it is, they will be glad to have her there. She sniffled and said, "She always used to brush my hair." Rupert wished there was something he could do or to say to take the little girl's sadness and heartache away. But he had no words to give her, none that she would understand. So he lay still, letting her pet him with her soft little hands. Then Rupert watched as a woman came walking through the trees, and thought, just for a small moment, perhaps he should flee. She was somewhere between short and tall as people go, wearing a long skirt and a silver ring on one toe. She looked at the girl and said, "We've been looking for you. Come join us in circle and bring your little friend too." Rupert watched the woman's face, not knowing what to think. Then he saw her look right at him and give a little wink. Smiling happily then, he knew it was true. The Lord and Lady had something for him to do. He let the little girl carry him without making any noise, in among the circle of people, men and women, girls and boys. He sat quietly and still in the girl's lap as the ritual began, trying hard to listen, to make sense of everything, and to understand. The woman from before raised her arms and was talking to them all. She told them how each life rises, and then how each must one day fall. She told them of times and ages past, and how not so long ago, Samhain was a time when people really did reap what they did sow. This was once the time when people of many lands and many ways got everything ready for the long dark nights and the cold short days. There once was no stores to run to for milk or meat or bread. They raised their own animals, wheat and vegetables instead. You may be smart enough to figure out, or may already know, that winter is not the time when most fruits, grains, and vegetables grow. Nor is winter when the sun shines its strongest for hours on end. No, she said, Samhain marks the time of year when all the harvests end. The woman called this harvest and time of the year the Feast of Samhain. Smiling, she said the strange word, so it seemed to rhyme with plowing. While it turned from that while it's true that we here all have stores to visit any time of the day, still autumn must give way to winter, as the wheel of the year has its say. All the gates between the worlds stand open this night, she said, between the realm of the living and the realm of the dead. There is a boundary, a veil, or barrier, a kind of line, that has always kept one away from the other throughout all time. But at certain times of the year, she went on to explain, the veil becomes thinner, like the moon when it starts to wane. If you look very closely, the whole of the circle is plain for you and me. But if you look quickly, then part of the moon is all you are able to see. At Samhain, if you look closely, think hard, and keep very still, you might have a special visitor. Some of us surely will. Rupert could feel the little girl's heart begin to beat very fast, and somehow he knew she was afraid to meet someone from her past. But the woman was wise and must have known what was on the girl's mind. Here in the circle you are safe. Spirits who come will be warm and kind. Now think of someone special who has left us in the past year or two. Please close your eyes and open your ears. This is something we all can do. Rupert felt the girl start to relax and breathing to slow. He wondered what she would see, and just how would he know. He was just a rabbit, an animal of the meadow and the forest deep. He knew this ritual was one of the mysteries that only people keep. Still, he closed his eyes, too, hoping the girl would find some peace, that the sadness she felt for her grandmother would soon cease. Then he felt a large, warm hand sink deep into his soft fur, and just like that, he knew the girl's name, and he could hear her. Becky was praying, asking God and Goddess to listen and to hear, to keep her grandmother safe, and to bless the woman she held so dear. She was glad her grandmother no longer suffered any pain. She missed having her to hug and talk to. That much was plain. Suddenly, many pictures of Becky's grandmother went through his mind. Scenes of fun and laughter the two of them had shared together, all kinds. Although he didn't really understand what most of them meant, he knew these were thoughts she carried with him wherever she went. Rupert felt a wave of sadness go through him from tail to ear, and knew that Becky was, once again, ever so close to tears. He remembered Becky telling him about her grandmother brushing her hair, and pictured the unfamiliar scene in his mind, thinking as hard as he dared. "You can open your eyes now," the woman whispered, her gentle voice very near. Rupert wasn't surprised to see it was she who had laid her hand on his ears. "Do you feel better now?" she asked, smiling, looking into Becky's eyes. "Do you understand that remembering love and laughter is always wise?" "But I didn't see her," the little girl said, her mouth making a frown. "Not as a spirit or ghost, or all dressed up in white flowing down." "Oh, my dear child, you must remember that not everyone always will. Why, we don't even know if your grandmother is in the Summerland still. The mysteries of who and what land lies beyond this life are not ours to know, but those of us here in the realm of the living must continue to grow. Whether we live only one life, or if we live many more, we can always draw strength and love from those who have lived before. If your grandmother came as a spirit, or as a memory, if she came as a warmth in your heart, or as a ghost you could see, that you remembered and called to her to you, those are the things you were supposed to do. There is no right way to do it, nor any way that could be wrong, no matter if you called your loved ones with prayer, chant, or with a song. Samhain is remembering and holding those who die near in our hearts. Remembering love and laughter we share is the very best part. With smiles or tears, no matter how or what you do, how you remember those you have loved is up to you." Becky slowly reached up to gently run her small fingers through her long hair. Rupert knew she was remembering her grandmother's tender, loving care. He felt, oh, so very good when Becky hugged him and smiled at last, knowing he had helped his new friend and had fulfilled his appointed task.
Yay! And just to clear this up a little bit, we say Samhain, some people say Samhain, which, rhymes with plowing.
Yeah.
It's just, in our past, there really isn't any right or wrong, on how to say certain things. I just say it the way it's written. That's just the way I am. You did a very good job.
Thank you. It's pretty good for you. Both of us are dyslexic, so it's kind of hard to read.
Right. On along the same subject, my subject is about Samhain and the veil is thinning. Samhain is a halfway point between autumn equinox and Yule. It's where the sun is less hours and the moon is up more. And we get to be fortunate this year that we have a blue moon on Samhain, which is kind of cool. Doesn't happen very often, obviously. Let's see. I've done a little notes here, so you're going to have to bear with me. Samhain is a time of celebration, the halfway point between autumn and Yule. It is said that the plains between Earth and the spirit realm are at its thinnest. Reaching out to our ancestors is known to be quite easy during this time. We don't need to hear voices of them or see them to know they are present. You can feel the vibrations of those who came before us. When I was in the southern states, I would, walk through the woods and sit and just close my eyes and listen. But, being here up in the UP, it could be snowing by then, and it's always cold. I mean, right now, today, I think it's like 50 degrees. So when I'm up here, I'll just sit, in a quiet place and close my eyes and open my heart and soul to who's surrounding me. Even though the word witch was never spoken in my family, I'm pretty sure that we had, and probably still do, besides myself and wife and a couple of kids, that are still witches. I hope I'm going to ask you to follow a few rules when you talk, see, feel people from the past. If you're opening up the veil as thin as it'll go, and you want to feel their vibrations and feel their connections, you always need to do like 4 or 5 different things. The first step is always protect yourself via, a ring of salt, or just saying words, something like, protect me and mine from evil, or the presence of unknowns.